Hey, read through the word. Today is March 15th. Today's lesson is called If, and we'll talk about that a little more. But let's talk about today's date. March 15th. If I said, beware the Ides of March, would you know what I meant? See, that's the literature teacher in me coming out, Julius Caesar. And I think it really does fit our lesson today. He received a warning that he did not heed. And, it's fictional and all, but let's just run with it because this will apply. Of what's going on here. That the idea of if. Now, Wendy did a live in the Facebook group last week before last. It's Leviticus 26. It's one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. And I think this right here is going to go along with that. So what I want us to look at specifically is, I might end up reading a lot with you because I want us to see this together. So, I'm trying to think, how much do I do with this? Let's just go. All right, we're going to start with 11:8. It says, therefore, be careful to obey every command I'm giving you today, so you may have strength to go in and take over the land you're about to enter. If you obey, you will enjoy a long life in the land the Lord swore to give to your ancestors and to you, their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land you're about to enter and take over is not like the land of Egypt, from which you came, where you planted your seed and made irrigation ditches with your foot as in a vegetable garden. Rather, the land you will soon take over is a land of hills and valleys and plenty of rain, a land that the Lord your God cares for. He watches over it through each season of the year. If you carefully obey the commands I'm giving you today, and if you love the Lord your God and serve him with all your heart and soul, then he will send the rains in their proper seasons, the early and the late rains, and your translation may say the latter rains, so that you can bring your harvest of grain, of new wine, and olive oil, and he will give you lush pasture land for your livestock, and you yourselves will have all you want to eat. But be careful, don't let your heart be deceived, so that you turn away from the Lord and serve and worship other gods. If you do, the Lord's anger will burn against you, and he will shut up the sky and hold back the rain. Remember that. And the ground will fail to produce its harvest. Then you will quickly die in the good land the Lord's given you. And then it continues. And then down in verse 26, it says, look, today I'm giving you the choice between a blessing and a curse. You'll be blessed if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I'm giving you today. But you'll be cursed if you reject the commands of the Lord your God and turn away from him and worship gods you've not known before. And when you go into the land, remember everything I've said. So, let's talk about this. Now, it's talking about the Lord has made a promise to them, this promised land. And he says, okay, as you go into this land, you need to remember something. This is not going to be like back when you were in Egypt. When your people were back in Egypt. When you were back in Egypt, you didn't have rains. Remember, okay, this is history teacher and geography in me, that when they're in Egypt, they depended, Egypt didn't have a rainy season. The Nile Delta didn't have a rainy season. They had rainy season further. Goodness gracious, I'm going to have to go into a map. The Nile, the upper Nile is up here at the Mediterranean. The lower Nile is down here. And from the lower Nile came the waters that would flood. And so the seasons were seasons of the water flooding the land, depositing minerals, and then coming back out. And then what they would do is dig irrigation. So he says you dug I'm using my foot like you can see me. You dug irrigation ditches with your feet like you would a vegetable garden. That's how your crops were grown. It's not going to work like that in this land you're about to take. In this land you're about to take, it rains. And I'm the one who makes it rain, says the Lord. And so then he remember the idea of remember through the book of Deuteronomy. Then he says, remember what I have brought you from. Remember where you're going to. And that you have accepted the covenant. We have a covenant. I will be your God. You will be my people. You will obey my commands, and you will do everything that's listed is what you're to do. And if you do this, you will have the land flowing with milk and honey. You will have the early rains and the latter rains, meaning the rains at the beginning of the season and the rains at the end of the season. In the beginning of the growing cycle, at the end of the growing cycle. Remember we talked about the calendar for Israel some yesterday, and we'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow. But I think of their calendar as a circle, not our calendars like we have hanging on our wall, but their circle. And it was cyclical, and I will probably be posting a picture of it soon. So in that, God has told them, he's made these promises to them, and they are his people. And with that covenant comes blessing. But if they go against the covenant, there comes curse. And there's not an accidental breaking of the covenant. They know what they're doing because they've been told, remember, 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 remember. They've been told over and over, do not do this, do not do this. How do you know the Lord is not pleased? The rain will stop. When the rains stop, you need to think, uh-oh. Now, some of y'all already know what's coming with that, because Elijah. So, that's the big sign. The sign that God is not pleased with his people in the land will be the rains will stop. The rains will stop. But God has Moses say these things. And it says, the Lord says, and God says, and that here we are. It's not an accident. This is a choice for you. It says, look, today I'm giving you a choice. You have the choice. Israel, you have the choice. You have blessing from obedience, and with disobedience comes curse. You have. Look, today I'm giving you the choice between a blessing and a curse. You'll be blessed if you obey, and you'll be cursed if you disobey. Everything was a choice. They knew. They knew. Remember, remember, remember. They knew. This is a choice. Am I actively choosing to obey God and keep to the covenant, or am I actively choosing to disobey? Am I actively choosing the blessing, or am I actively choosing the curse? Which is it? It wasn't a, oops, I accidentally. No. This was a choice for them. Moses will say this a few more times in Deuteronomy, and we'll hear Joshua say it again in Joshua. Choose blessing or curse, life or death. Which do you pick? It was a choice. If you do this, then this will happen. If you do this, then this will happen. Those are the choices. It is, and I know I've said this before in class, in our class here, my pastor says this, we love the covenant blessings of God, but we do not want the covenant obedience that's required. We want the covenant we want to be disobedient but still get the blessings of God. And I've told y'all before, this is what it looks like. The disobedience brings us outside of the umbrella of the protection of God and blessings. So then what falls upon us is the natural course of choosing disobedience. And that's everything that's spelled out here. And the hint that it's getting ready to get bad is the rains will stop. Because you didn't have that back in the land. But the promised land, I am going to give you the water you need. And it will not be constantly digging ditches. So, what do we do with that? This is the way I say it to my children. I've explained to them what it's like to live as a Christian. What does it mean? When we get to James and it says to resist the devil, and I lay it before my kids like this. You have two choices before you today. Just like here. You have blessing for your life. Remember we talked blessing the other week. Blessing or you have curse. What does it look like? In life, with every thought, word, and deed, we are either taking a step towards God, a step towards blessing, a step towards obedience, or we're taking a step away from God, which is a step towards disobedience and towards curse. And I tell my kids, are you either stepping one step towards God or a step towards Satan? Which step are you making? God places before us every day of our life the choice. Obedience or disobedience. Blessing or curse. Which one do we pick? That's something for us to think about. All right, we'll see you next time on Read Through the Word.